Hello. You are listening to the Carroll Connection with your host, Jared Carroll.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Carroll Connection. I'm your host, Jared Carroll, here to bring you guys another great episode. I did want to take a chance to shout out my last episode, episode 157 with Richie Oliver. Please go check that episode out. You can check it out at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you like to watch your podcast, go on YouTube, search The Carroll Connection or Jared M. Carroll, and it should pop up right for you. And if you want to be a guest or return as a guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at The Carroll Connection, and I'll set that up with you guys. So, and just keep in mind with like the holidays and everything, I'm trying to be a little bit more structured and organized. So I've kind of booked a lot of that stuff out for the holidays. And if you're returning for the holidays, kind of just be mindful of that. And maybe we'll pre-record something that'll drop in the future. But really, it's looking towards 2024 for podcast dates like January and stuff like that, and getting into February. But for today, this is the annual birthday reflection year 28. And I actually took the time to listen to prior birthday reflections and kind of just tried to get a feel for some of the stuff that I talked about on those episodes. And I think it's kind of interesting to actually go back and listen to those episodes and kind of hear the voice change too a little bit. Obviously, I think the beginning first birthday reflection was 2020. I think it was episode like 37. And I was using like USB Yeti microphones, and obviously I have the Rodecaster now. Things are a little bit different, and the setup and stuff like that, and like the camera, obviously, and like the backdrop and shit. So things obviously have progressed over the last several years. We're about to hit our 4-year anniversary of the podcast later this month, so that's going to be really cool to hit the official 4-year mark, and then look towards continuing in year 5 and seeing where we could grow and meet new people and continue the conversations that we have had. And I like to use this episode as a marker for myself, like I've mentioned on prior episodes, of being like a journal prompt or a journal entry that's recorded. And it's not necessarily for anyone else other than myself, but if you guys do get value from me talking about my year and kind of things that I've gone through and I've learned and goals for the future, this episode's pretty similar towards the year in review episode that I'll do. Obviously, it's a little bit more personal because it's like my birthday and I want to reflect on that. But I listened to last year's episode too. And on that episode, I was talking about doing like virtual guests and even like my financial aspirations of owning a home and things of that nature. And that didn't happen this year. And I kind of didn't feel called to do virtual podcasts at this point. I found plenty of people who were in person that were new to the podcast. I had plenty of guests that wanted to return and catch up and have great conversations. So I kind of focused on that this year. And in terms of looking for homes and real estate and stuff, I kind of pivoted from looking towards buying homes to paying off my debt. And I paid off my student loans this year. And that is something I'm very proud of. I worked very hard to save the money. And I knew eventually that the pause was going to end on student loans from COVID. And they were talking about this summer. So I kind of just buckled down and just made 3 lump payments and paid off all my debt. It's definitely something that I would encourage people to do, is pay off your debts if you're able to, obviously. I know everyone's financial situation is very different, but I was privileged enough to be at home. I still contribute to my family and stuff like that, but definitely a reduced cost based on the way that housing is these days. It's kind of ridiculous, and that's also kind of what steered me away from buying a home. Was I am in the position to, and I still could if I wanted to, but it's just not the appropriate time. And I think that's like a good like piece to add to this episode is the timing of things. You got to be like understanding of when it's your time and when it's not. And right now, it's just not the time. And I think this overarching point of this year was um, not so much like taking a step backwards, but taking a step back and looking at what I'm doing currently, and is it working? Is it working for me? And I did a lot less solo episodes this year. I did a lot, not that many less episodes to this point, but I put a more important emphasis on the content that I was making, the conversations that I was having, and also just living my life. If you guys have listened to any of my previous episodes lately, I've mentioned my girlfriend, and I've gotten into a relationship at the beginning of this year. And that was a huge thing for me. After struggling for many, many years of dating and going through the ups and downs, as many of us do, I found a relationship that really worked for me, and it's made me a better person, honestly. And she knows how I feel about her. I tell her constantly. And I actually posted our trip from New Hampshire recently. And one of the things that we kind of agreed on early in our relationship was to keep things off social media in terms of sharing everything. And for you guys that followed me or talked to me in prior years, that might actually come as a shock considering I was very like content oriented, and I was very driven on the fact of like post everything, make everything content, like content, content, content. And the mindset has definitely changed on that. I don't think everything needs to be content. It can be if you want it to be, but for me, I just really focused on enjoying the stuff I was making, enjoying the conversations, and enjoying the time I spent with people, and really pouring into my relationship. I really enjoy my relationship and the things that we do together and the time that we spend. And I really value that. And you guys know that I've always loved love, and I've always valued relationships, and I value uh, the idea of family creation. And I think it's important for our society and things like that. So my mindset looking towards the future has definitely shifted from like just like being a content creator and trying to make a name for myself to like what does my life actually look like in 5 to 10 years? What is like what does my relationship look like? Do I have a family? Do I want a family? And you guys know that I do want family. I would love to be a father. I would love to have kids. I think that's like one of the biggest blessings that you can have. So that's something I've been thinking more about as I turn 28 is you're closer to 30. Like life is getting really real, and it's a pivotal point for myself where I need to start assessing like what are the appropriate steps in like my career? What are the appropriate steps in my content? Like where do I go from this point? And I am planning on adding some possible content additions to what I do currently. I know I've mentioned in the past about my solos being journal prompts. Well, I've started to think about maybe making like a mini series almost with that and seeing what that does. And I've been really inspired lately, honestly, by Wally and the ever changing vibe and the growth that he's had in his content in the sense of his reactions. And I know he was doing some kind of, I don't know if it's unboxing or doing Pokemon cards and stuff like that, and like showing those out on his reels on his Instagram, which is really cool for him to do. Um, as well as the AOHD content that he makes with Geo. Shout out to those guys. And the fact that he's just been trying different things and things that it seems like he enjoys. And I think that's really cool. And just like working through the content and seeing how his channel can grow and what works for him. And for me, personally, like I've never been like a reaction channel like fan or um I never wanted to create stuff like that. So I had to like think about what could I do that would be kind of genuine and authentic to myself, and maybe doing the journal prompt like kind of like mini series might work. And um I've even taken that step back from TikTok where I don't really post about relationship stuff, and I think that's part of the growth that I've experienced this year where I'm not posting my relationship like that. I don't I never believed that I could post sad content, sad relationship breakup content, and have a successful relationship. That just those two can't be married together. It just doesn't work. And I realized that like towards the end of last year, going into 2023, like kind of after my birthday, my content was like kind of falling off, and I didn't really enjoy making that content as much. And then, ironically enough, I met my girlfriend, and it just kind of took me away from that stuff. It made me happy. Like you can't be happy and post sad shit. It just doesn't work like that. And I just didn't want to do that either. Um, that page was good for me at the time that I created it because it allowed me to express myself. And I learned a lot about myself in the way that content works and who I am and what I felt, and to be validated by those people on TikTok and some of the people that end up becoming like kind of like mutual, like not mutual, friends, and that followed me on like Instagram and shit. Like going through that was important, but taking the step back and analyzing what works and what doesn't is like also valuable too. And I think it's important to reflect on your birthday and reflect at year ends and to think about where you're going. Like, is this where you want to go? Like, who are you? What's important to you? What is success to you? Like, what is like your drive, your motivation? What do you want to be? And for myself, I just want to continue being me. And what being me actually means is like having genuine relationships with people, having authentic conversations, talking about stuff that actually matters to me, and not just like making content to try to go viral or doing sad breakup stuff. Like that just doesn't work for me. And I don't want to become just one of those content creators. So taking the step back was very valuable, and reassessing kind of like the things that I want to do and who I want to be. And these birthday reflections are important to me. I think they allow me to kind of actually look into my life a little bit, and did I accomplish what I wanted to? Where did I fall a little short? Where can I actually add and improve on going into 28? It's a big year, and I think every year is a big year, actually. But um, building on each year is just as important. And if you're not building on each year, um, you're regressing technically. So I think it's important for us as people, as adults, even the younger audience that might listen to this, is use other people's lives sometimes as templates and like take what you need from things and like compare to a degree. I think I've always said comparison's the thief of joy, but I think it also, if you're self-aware enough to kind of just like see what's working for other people and see what's not working for you, and kind of like building off that and like creating something that is unique to you, I think is really worth doing. And like just seeing like my personal action, like my personal growth from when I started this podcast to like now is pretty unique, and it's pretty cool to have this like part of my life documented. Because at the end of the day, I don't know if I'll always do the podcast. I'm not going to say that I always will, but I'll always have it. And I think that is like an important thing to me, because for a long time I didn't have a thing. Like once football ended when I was in high school, I definitely was kind of lost going through college, and when I finally moved away, and that's where a lot of this realization happened, and I kind of figured out that just working like the classic 9 to 5 and going to the gym, and yeah, that's like somewhat fulfilling, but not enough, and it wasn't my purpose, and I felt like I was called to do more almost. And it was just one of those moments that like people talk about, like you just kind of feel called to do something and called to action, and I was called in this weird sense to talk to people, reconnect. And when COVID happened, this became like that much more valuable to do that, because we got scared obviously when it first started, to have these connections, to have these conversations, to be with people. And the way that social media has kind of infiltrated our society, you combine those different factors and we become really disconnected. And I wanted to get back to the face to face. And that's why I didn't do virtual this year. Like as much as I applaud the people that do virtual podcasts and like are willing to connect with people that don't live near them. And I'm not opposed to doing that, obviously, with a lot of people in my life that I could do really great podcasts with. just seeing someone in person, like being able to like kind of like give like hug them or give them a handshake or dap them up, whatever it is, and just like look them in the eye and have like a couple hour conversation about life. You can't beat that. You can't put a price tag on that. And like obviously you guys know the whole take a chance tattoo that I have in remembrance of my grandfather reminds me how valuable these conversations always are and how important they are. Like without that episode, I might have stopped doing this. Like I might not have known the possible impact that this podcast could have on me and others. And it might never get millions or thousands of views. And I think I'm at peace with that. I think I'm at peace with the fact that like I do this for me. I really enjoy doing this for me. I enjoy doing this for the friends and family of my guests, the friends and family of myself, obviously, and just seeing where it goes. Being patient, understanding that this is all building blocks. Who knows what I become or what you become or what anyone else who's been a guest on this podcast becomes. We don't know. Tomorrow's not promised. We aren't fortune tellers. We really don't know. So embracing the unknown, but continuing to like do and like actually like grow. One quote that's kind of stuck with me lately is nothing changes if nothing changes. If you actually want something to be different in your life, you have to do something different in your life. And a lot of us aren't willing to do that. I mean, there's sometimes in my life I don't want to do stuff, and I know that I should if I want to actually see change. And I've done it before, whether it's like fitness or something like that, or the podcast in terms of like cameras and stuff. Like if you want your content to change, you want your health to change, you want your career to change, you have to apply for the job, you have to buy the new camera, you have to set up the meal plan, you have to go to the gym, you have to do the thing. If you're not willing to make changes in your life, then you have to be comfortable with the fact that things are going to be the way they are. And if you're okay with that, cool. I know a lot of us aren't. I'm one of those people. So I'm willing to adjust where I see fit and try to actually grow. They talk about the comfort zone stuff. Like if you want to actually grow, step out the comfort zone. If you want to step into a new career, a new job, a new form of content, it's going to be weird. You're not going to know how to do it at first. And it's going to be stressful and confusing and kind of scary. But embrace that. Embrace the suck. Embrace the scary. Embrace the unknown. Because I didn't know what this whole podcast was going to be way back in 2019. I had quit my job. I had nothing going at that point. I didn't know what my next job was going to be. I was unemployed for like close to like a month or two. I had no fucking clue. And I just bet on myself. I put down the money, bought the equipment, researched, created a whole backdrop or a logo and created the name and started interviewing people. Like the other day, I had a picture on my Snapchat of episode 1 I recorded with Eric Lazito, and I sent it to him and we laughed. And it was just crazy. Like we started off in his garage, just like shooting the shit. And here we are 150 plus episodes later, still going. 4 years later, just about still going. And that should be inspiring to people. Like just keep going. You don't know who you're going to inspire on the way. You don't know who's listening. You don't know who's watching. But don't do it for that aspect. Do it because like you want to continue to grow. Growth is literally like the most important aspect of like human nature almost. Like it's not happiness, it's none of that. It's continuing to grow and like add to your being. Like are you improving as a person? Are you improving in your day-to-day stuff? Like it's okay to regress here and there, but continuing to move the needle forward, like to test the waters, to try new things. And I think it's super valuable. Like the fact that even I continued to travel this year and go to Germany. After last year, I went to Ireland, and Germany was so cool to see a country that speaks a different language, has a different pace to the way they do things, and just to be in that environment, my family was like one of the coolest things. And I don't take none of this for granted. Like gratitude, like that stuff I've mentioned on plenty of previous episodes is like being grateful for things around you, for the people around you, because like I said earlier in this, it's like tomorrow's not promised, and neither are the people in your lives. And we all know that, but on the day to day and like the hour to hour stuff, like we don't think about the big picture sometimes. And I get it, it's life, but it's important to check in on that every here and there. And I just kind of enjoy doing these birthday reflections because they always allow me to be kind of like critical of myself, but also to analyze like who I am, who I was when I was 24 turning 25, and then 25 turning 26, 26 turning 27, and now 27 turning 28. I have at least like a good like part of my 20s documented on camera of me talking and like expressing how I feel and seeing the growth from like even like 2020 where I was a little more hurt, a little more emotionally charged in that episode where coming off the struggles that I had in my life at that time between COVID and um, relationship struggles and things like that to like even now where I'm very comfortable in my skin and I've gone through the therapy, I've gone through the podcast, I've been able to try to heal my ass, heal my ass, heal myself in different ways and create and like cultivate a very loving and positive relationship that's really inspired me to continue growing. And I couldn't be more thankful for my girlfriend to have such an amazing like partner and to support me in like the podcast. I know she'll listen to this and I know that she'll appreciate the fact that I talk about her on these and that I'm just like proud of her and proud of our relationship and I'm happy to showcase that and showcase my feelings for her. That's something that I've been able to do this year is get back to like my loving self almost. And she's allowed me the space to do that with her and I'll forever be grateful for that. And kind of I want to start like wrapping the bow up on this great episode and really thank everyone that reaches out and wishes me a happy birthday that has supported me on this podcast, has supported me on this journey, has supported me as a person. None of this would ever be possible without the people who are willing to come on the podcast and speak to me and speak to you guys that listen. I just appreciate that and I'm forever grateful to to be able to do this. I think it's cool and it's a cool experience and to think about how people might interpret this years later as long as social media and YouTube are still a thing. It'll be really cool, but I think birthday reflections are important. You should always be willing to kind of look at yourself in the mirror and analyze where you want to go in life. Who are you today? Are you the person that you want to be today? If not, how do you change that? Start by journaling. Make a list. Evaluate what's going on in your life. Like I said before, nothing changes if nothing changes. If you want to make serious change in your life, you have to change something serious in your life. And that's something that I'm still working on and I'm still trying to find ways to improve this podcast, improve my health, improve my life. But in order to do that, sometimes you have to take a step back and analyze your life. See what's happening. Be aware. Be patient. And be loving to yourself. Because if you aren't loving yourself, you're not giving your space to be creative, to be innovative, to think about new things, to create new ideas. Like you need that space for yourself. And if you're not ready to love yourself, you got some healing to do. And you should be kind of aware enough to try to work through that and maybe find a therapist and do those things. And I always support that. So if you guys like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, share with your grandma. And if you want to watch the podcast, go on YouTube, search the Carroll Connection or Jared M. Carroll should pop up right for you. If you want to be a guest or return as a guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at the Carroll Connection and we'll set that up. Like always, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you tuned in for the whole episode, again, thank you for all the birthday wishes, and I'm really excited for the stuff to come. I think the rest of this year is going to be really good, and hopefully into 2024, I'll be able to bring you guys some more great content and maybe some new content. So stay tuned. Till next time, guys. Peace.